Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today, and welcome to the Careers in Accounting and Finance panel. My name is Tisa, and I will be your moderator for today's session. This afternoon, we have representatives from a variety of organizations in the accounting and finance industry. They are here to share their expertise and experiences with you. Please welcome them. Before we get started, there's just a few housekeeping items I would like to review with you. I'm kindly asked that you please turn off or mute your cell phones for the entirety of our session today. In case of an emergency, please evacuate through the nearest fire exit. There are 2 at the top and 1 at the side. I kindly ask that you please remain seated for the entirety of the session today. And please postpone all your questions to the end of the session, as we will have a question and answer period at the end. And finally, as many of you know, this is a Learning Passport eligible event. So to keep things flowing, we would ask that you please have all your Learning Passports filled out during the session, and we will stamp it at the very end. You can please see Anne or Miriam at the end of the session to have your stamp. And we will get started. So for our first question, please introduce yourself and the position and the company that you work for. And we'll start at this end of the panel. Thank you.
Thanks, Tisa. Good afternoon / evening, I think it is. Everybody, thanks for joining us here today, and thanks for inviting me. My name is Sabet Makhoul. I'm an investigator with the Canada Revenue Agency. And I think that's it for question 1.
Hi everyone, my name's Sarah Oliver. I'm a CPA CA. I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers in their audit and assurance group and also in their advisory group for about 10 years. And now I'm the CFO of a small public company called Fortune Bay Corp. I'm also involved in a few not-for-profit organizations. So I sit as the secretary of the board of the Nova Scotia SPCA. I'm a council member for the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nova Scotia, and I'm also involved in Dress for Success Halifax.
Impressive. Hi, I'm Christine MacEacheran. I am also a CPA CA, and I work at Levy, Casey, Carter, MacLean, Chartered Accountants. We hopefully will be shortening that soon. And my position there is a staff CPA CA, so I'm a senior auditor mostly, but I also deal in tax and other small assurance engagements. And that's basically first question.
Okay. Hi, I'm Shaun MacIntyre, and I am the Director for Commercial Services with Credit Union Atlantic, and I have my CMA CPA designation as well, and I guess that's about it for now.
Great, thank you. We'll start with Sabet for this question. Touching on your educational background and training, can you explain what led you to the position you're in today?
Okay, yeah, sure. I took finance in school at St. Mary's. That's how I began down this road. First, I started with chemistry, actually, at Dalhousie. That didn't work out too well. I did it backwards. I partied at Dalhousie, and then I went to school at St. Mary's. I wish I had done it the other way around. But anyways, I took a finance course eventually and fell in love with it, finished with finance, and then right out of university, I got hired on to the CRA, to the Canada Revenue Agency, through one of their auditor apprenticeship programs. This was 10 years ago. I worked my way through the audit section, and about a year ago now, a year and a half ago, I joined their investigations division. In terms of education, I've taken my CMA as well. So I guess it's CMA CPA now. As well as this term is my last term. I'm taking my MBA as well at St. Mary's, so I'll be done that. And I think that covers the education.
Great. Thanks, Sabet. Sarah?
Thanks. So I did my commerce degree at Dal in the cooperative program there, and when I started my degree, I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do. And I got my first co-op work term at PwC in the advisory group. So I didn't really think that I wanted to do that, but I saw the opportunity within PwC to kind of move around. They have different lines of service. They're an international firm, so I thought, okay, I can do some traveling with this as well. So that's kind of how I got into starting the CA designation. And from there, I just made sure that I focused mainly on my accounting courses and my marks going through to make sure that when I finished my cooperative degree, because there's tons of competition when you finish your degree, that I could get into start the CA program.
Perfect. I similarly, started out in chemistry and partied a little bit too much as well, and learned that I could not mix chemicals very well. So I moved on, and I actually was not sure exactly what I wanted to do. I was pushed out of high school because I had high grades and got a scholarship to Sabet, so I just thought naturally sciences. So I was a bit in a groove where I didn't know where should I go next. So I went to NSCC. I actually did the diploma there in accounting, and I realized I really like the math side of this, but it's logical and analytical. So I decided I'm going to pursue this and do a degree. So I actually did the 2+2 program and came to Mount St. Vincent. And I also enrolled in the co-op program. So I got my first co-op with the Levy MacLean, where I work now. And I actually stayed on with them for a second co-op and knew right away, I like this. This is the fit for me. I'm going to pursue doing my CA, which I had already considered but didn't really know what that meant. But I got to see through my co-ops what they actually did. So I stayed on with them and did ASCA program, did my CA designation, and now I'm working my way up, and I am a senior and for 5 years on a couple audits. So that's basically my education and where I'm at now. So I think that's about it.
Thank you. So I started out at Cape Breton University, and I did a combined program there, Bachelor in Business, combined with Bachelor of Arts in Community Studies. And so after I finished that, I tried to do an MBA in similar circumstances. I didn't finish it, but I ended up getting hired by Royal Bank to go into their commercial account manager training program. And I thought, wow, that would look good on the resume for 5 years or so. And I ended up staying 17 years with the company. And about 14 years or so into that, I decided I'd really like to go back and finish my MBA, and I was really interested in the CMA program. So I ended up going to St. Mary's to do the combined program there. And so I finished that, and then the same month that I was finishing that, I noticed the ad for Credit Union Atlantic's position. So the timing was really good. I was really keen for a change in speed. So that's what I made the switch over.
Great, thank you, Shaun. For our next question, how competitive are positions in the field of accounting and finance? And you can feel free to draw from any of your personal experiences.
Okay, thank you. At the CRA, which is really the only place I've ever been in my professional life, it's fairly competitive. The thing that's been happening, though, in the 10 years I've been there is there's been a lot of retirements going on. All the baby boomers are calling it a day and taking their pensions and leaving, and that's opening up a lot of positions, senior positions for the newer crowd. A position may come up that, say, 30 or 40 of us might apply for. Sometimes there's one position, sometimes there's 5, sometimes there's 10 positions that 40 people are applying for. So it depends on the position, it depends on the seniority level, and the entry level positions are always very competitive. You may have hundreds of applicants for, say, 6 jobs, or 4 to 6 jobs, whatever it may be. So it depends.
Thank you, Sabet. Sarah?
I would agree that the entry-level jobs are really competitive. So when I was at PwC, I was involved in recruiting, and the main focus to get in the door to get the interview is really your accounting marks. So it's really important that you're technically competent, And so that's what's going to get you to get the interview. Right now anyway, a lot of the way that, or at least at PwC, that's what I'm speaking to, I guess, everything is done online. So you're sending in your resume and your transcript. So your personality and those type of things are not going to come through. It's your marks that are going to stand out. So it's really important to, in my opinion anyway, to focus on things like intermediate accounting and advanced accounting, because that's what's going to get you through the door. The market in Halifax is pretty small, so there's tons of people competing from all the universities for jobs. So that's my advice anyway.
Well, I'm going to add a little bit, but she basically took my answer. But
At least you're consistent.
yes, I do recruiting as well for co-op and some CPA student positions at our firm. So just based on the number of applicants we do get, it's very competitive. And exactly what she said, on paper, all we see really is how you communicate in your cover letter is important. We like to see some personality in there, because really that's all we're drawn from, because otherwise we're just going to look at the marks and base our top 5 or top 10 on that. So then when it comes to getting into an actual position, entry level, it really is tough competition. There are some really high marks in the accounting program especially, so it's important to get out there early as well. And just something to note that CPA recruitment does start fairly early with a lot of big firms, so just being prepared and being on the ball and getting your marks high before your 4th year is important. And yeah, once you get into a firm, once you're in, you're kind of set, and once you get your designation, you're pretty much set to advance as long as you do well. But it's just getting in the door that's really important.
Great. Thanks, Christine. Shaun?
Okay. In my case, I work for a fairly small company. There's only 100 of us, and so there's not a whole lot of room for advancement, and unless you want to be CEO, or and I don't think that's in the cards. But so I think looking out at the industry, the entire credit union system is ripe for consolidations. There's over 300 of them in Canada right now. So that could lead to opportunities as they merge, and having the MBA and CMA program, I think that would open up doors to go outside of the finance world and into a different stream. So hopefully there's a few opportunities.
Great, thank you. For the next question, what types of opportunities for advancement does your organization have? I know we touched on a few things, but we'll start with you again, Sabet.
Okay, opportunities for advancement. So the CRA assists you with any education that you may want to take, as long as it pertains to the position that you're taking. So for example, for me, they help pay for the CMA part, but they didn't help with the MBA part, because that wasn't really, it didn't pertain to the job I was doing at the time. So they do offer educational assistance. We have mentorship, a mentorship program where you are able to sign up and be partnered with someone in the division or section of the CRA that you are thinking of potentially being at one day, to give you a taste of that division. We have many divisions and different sections of the CRA, from our collections section to audit to investigations to appeals. We've got a number of areas where one could go. Here in Halifax alone, we have I believe it's 600 positions on Hollis Street there, and we also have an additional 150 at our regional office, which is located here in Halifax as well. So there's a number of places that you could aim to go.
Great, thank you. Sarah?
Sure, thanks. The company that I work for right now is pretty small, so I'm going to talk more in general terms. That if you decide that you're interested in accounting, there's a lot of opportunities to do your designation through places other than a firm now. When I started it was very unusual to do your designation if you weren't in a public accounting firm. But now there's companies like Sobeys and Irving that you could start working directly in industry and still do your designation. So what I would say in terms of opportunities, there's tons of opportunities if there's a specific sector that you like. I've friends that have done everything from VP finance at a large hotel company here in the city, or a guy that I did my CA with, he owns his own business in Antigonish. So you could work in not-for-profit. There's tons of opportunities, so it's just a matter of getting your foot in the door at the beginning, getting your marks up now, and really going for it.
I guess with my firm, just in general, opportunities start from the moment you get in the door. As a co-op, that's a popular way we like to hire, because we get to test the waters with a lot of students and see how they fit in, and they can see how they'll fit into the organization, because the worst is committing to someone and then they don't like the job. So we really like to test it out, and from there, as long as you fit in and you do well, which is often the case, we love to keep you on and put you through the program. So there's opportunity to go through your CPA and actually have the firm finance it up front. And then also in-house, we provide professional development courses to always keep you updated. And then once you have your designation, you go off on a lot of professional development courses just to learn the new standards and learn new tax, because they love to update things on you. And there's also opportunity to grow in a sense that you're not stagnant in a position ever. I know as a CPA, you have the opportunity to advance in your career as far as you want to. And within my firm, I've advanced in the 4.5 years. I've advanced from a co-op to a CA student to now an audit senior, and next step will be manager. So there's always opportunities in the whole field to try different things as well. So there's room to grow.
Great. Thank you, Christine. Shaun?
I think I answered the advancement question on my last one, so sorry about that.
Okay.
Ahead of myself. As far as the competitiveness piece that I missed out on, as someone who did a mid-career pivot, I can attest that the Halifax market is pretty competitive. There was opportunities that I was looking for just to gain experience. It would have been a bit of a backward step financially, but I was interested in gaining a different experience, and it was very tough just getting interviews. So.
Great. Thank you, Shaun. Sabet, what is it about your job that you enjoy the most?
Thank you. I guess I've been an auditor and an investigator, and both jobs open you up to a great deal of variety in terms of the businesses that you may be auditing or investigating. So I really enjoy learning about all the various businesses and corporate setups and things of that nature. So it's always a challenge to try to figure out what's going on and trying to learn what exactly you're looking at and the nature of the business that you're looking at. So that's what I enjoy the most, is the variety.
Great. Sarah?
Thanks. So when I started out, I really enjoyed and was good at kind of the number side of things. So that was kind of how I gravitated into the accounting profession. But I guess what I enjoy now is every day is a little bit different. So we're looking at different transactions all the time. You're dealing with personnel issues. You're learning about different businesses. So every day is different. So I think that's what keeps me interested. I'm always learning different things.
I guess on the same note, in a public firm, you are audited in different businesses, so you get to see a different environment. One day will be in a not-for-profit with a little box in front of me working on my laptop, and then maybe a week later I have my own office in a 200 employee size office. So you get to see different aspects and kind of see what you like, because in the future you may want to go be the controller of one of these companies or the executive director of not-for-profit. And I also enjoy the professionalism of my colleagues. You don't have to worry about someone slacking off. You are all professional, and your task is done well, and then you pass it in. So there's none of this working in groups and someone slacking off and you have to cover them, or someone not showing up for their shift. Everyone's professional, and for the most part, your clients are easy to deal with. Most part.
Yeah. Great. Shaun?
I enjoy helping people. So what I find is we're dealing with entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs are a very passionate group of people. And unfortunately, they don't often understand the financial statements that get produced for them. So sometimes as a banker, you're communicating things that are a bit foreign to them, and they don't understand. And to me, when I look at a set of financial statements, they tell a story about what's going on inside that business, and a lot of times that story is not fully known to the entrepreneur that owns the business. So when you have that opportunity to be able to look at that and explain it back to them in a way that they understand and they get it, is very rewarding. And I had a situation where, people were just not thinking of their most valuable asset, which was the creativity of the owner and how much time he spends on doing particular projects. And just a minor change in how they think about their business made them relook at how they're pricing their jobs. And this was a company where, honestly, I don't know how people paid for their groceries, let alone future retirement plans. So it was very rewarding for it to see the light come on and have them change how they think about their business.
Great. We did touch on this one briefly. I know Christine had some insight, but does the organization you work for offer new grad, summer, part-time, or co-op positions? And Sabet, we'll start with you again.
Yes, thank you. Yes, CRA does offer, I think we've offered all 4 of those throughout the 10 years I've been there. The most current new graduate program that we have is called the Auditor Development Program, I believe is the official name of it. If you go onto our website, just Google CRA website, you'll find it, and job opportunities. There's information out there on the program, but basically it takes you right out of university and develops you as an auditor with the hope that you would become a full-time employee with the CRA. So that's the newest thing that we have. We also do co-op almost every term. I used to do the co-op recruiting myself, and there's been times where throughout the year we've taken upwards of 8 to 9 to 10 students, but on average we certainly take at least 1 or 2 a term. And then the summer and the part-time positions aren't always offered. It depends on need. If we need those positions filled, or if we need help in any certain section, we offer those types of positions.
Great, thank you, Sabet. Sarah?
At Fortune Bay, we do offer summer student programs. Typically, they're not focused in accounting. They're more in the marketing field, but that's not to say we wouldn't do accounting going forward. And I know when I was at PwC, there's definitely co-op programs every term. So it's just a matter of, or summer student, it's just a matter of going online and finding those opportunities.
As I did speak on, we love co-ops because we typically hire 2 every winter semester. Summer is our downtime, which is nice, but winter is our busy tax season, so we usually take on 2 co-ops, and every once in a while, just based on the timing of when our co-ops are going through, we may hire a CPA student straight out of university rather than a co-op student going through. So those are our main opportunities. But yeah, we have had so much success with Mount students. We love employing through the Mount. Myself, along with 2 other staff CAs, in our firm is 25 people. So there's 3 staff CAs, a senior manager, and currently 4 CPA students in our firm from the Mount. So there's lots of opportunities.
Great. Shaun?
I guess the opportunities on the finance side are probably fairly limited with CUA. However, we do hire customer service reps and financial advisors in the branches. And as far as co-op positions, I think we do hire from the Mount for the communications program. We do a community coordinator position, and I don't believe there's any formal summer programs, but definitely part-time roles on the customer service side.
Great. And for my final question, do you have any advice or suggestions for students pursuing a career in accounting and finance? I'll start with you again, Sabet. Ken?
Sure. Just some general comments. I think we've already heard it here a couple times, but try to get your foot in the door somewhere, right? That's the hardest part, is to get your foot in the door and then to prove yourself. And normally you should succeed. Co-op programs are a great way to do that. I'm not sure, is co-op mandatory here, or is it elective?
You can opt into it if
You
you'd
can
like to,
opt
yeah.
into it, so I suggest you opt into it. It's a great way for you to test things out and for your employer to test things out. It looks great on a resume when I look at a resume and you see these, people have been a number of places, or maybe one place, but over 3 or 4 terms. It says a lot. So that's the other thing. Pursuing a career in accounting and finance. I remember one of my professors once said, this is kind of a joke, but I guess if you have to introduce a joke, it's probably not going to be that funny, but let's try it out. He said, what's the difference between accounting majors and finance majors? No, nobody can figure that one out. He said, finance majors make the money, and accounting majors count it for them. It was pretty funny. That's it.
Great. Sarah, any advice for us?
Yeah, so I think I already touched on the importance of marks, so I won't harp on that. The other thing that I would say is really important is attending the recruitment sessions. So most of the firms come to all the campuses, and I can tell you that when I was involved in recruiting at PwC, I remember there was a second-year student who was not even, looking for a job at the time, but was really interested in PwC and made the effort to come out and talk to me. And I remembered him from that session, and we ended up hiring him as a co-op just because I remembered him and he was very engaged. So I stress the importance of going to those sessions and also working with career counselors just to kind of see what's out there if you're not sure. And then the other thing I would say is it's really important to start building your network. The people that are in your classes now are going to be the people that are going to be out in the business community in a few years that you may need to sell something to or buy something from or ask for a job. So it's never too early to start building that network. I know when I switched over to Fortune Bay just under a year ago, we were looking to do a strategic transaction. So one of the first things I did, I started researching, where are all those people that I did my CA designation with? And one of the first calls was to a guy at WBLI that I hadn't spoken to probably since I was in the CA program, but I knew him. So anyway, that's the other thing I would say is just focus on building those relationships now, because you never know, they'll probably come in handy later on.
Great.
They all have great advice, so I have similar advice. Number one, academic advisors can be your best friend. You don't want to get to 4th year and not know what you need to take if you want to take the CPA designation, because a lot of the times there's very strict courses that you have to take, and one has to be taken in the fall semester and one has to be taken in the winter. And then if you're doing a co-op in the winter, you might have to work around scheduling. I ran into that a lot because my firm only took co-ops in the winter, so I had to take some summer courses and then also a couple while I did a co-op, and then advanced accounting before intermediate accounting. So you can work around. The dean was my best friend. So that's important to figure it out early and map everything out. Also, the co-op program is, as I said, if you're not sure where you want to go, I've had friends who've done the co-op program as well, and they realized this isn't for me. I don't want to do this. So nice to know that before you go along that line, go through recruitment with all these big firms, which happens in September, October of your 4th year, and get set, and then you hate it the first couple weeks. So get in the office and see what you like, because as Sarah said, you can go to a company now, you can do your CPA, and it's now similar to a CMA. It's all combined, so you can go to Sobeys or Irvin and do something different. You could be a controller, you could work in the finance section. Also, if you know anybody who's gone through the program or is actually working right now in accounting, talk to them. Like, they know exactly what you're about to do, and I had friends who went ahead of me and they were my best friends. Like, what do I take next? What should I do next? When is recruitment? And they'll help you figure out what you want to do.
I would echo Sarah's comments around, marks are important, but doing other things to differentiate yourself is really critical. In my case, I was VP Finance for the Students' Union when I went to university, and I thought, wow, that's a pretty cool experience. And then the next year, I started a small consulting business, and didn't make a whole lot of money from it, but what I found was employers were far more interested in that starting your own business than they were in running at that time a $250,000 operation. So that was a unique thing. The other thing to point out too, on my team there's 4 account managers. One was an internal hire, one was recommended by an existing employee, and the other 2 were people that I had formerly worked with. So again, echo those comments of the people in the room here, your peers. You may be hiring them, or they may be hiring you or recommending you, so look after each other.
Thank you, folks, for some great advice. I will now open up the floor to any students who have a question. I'll just ask that you raise your hand and stand up. I will repeat the question into the microphone just for anyone to hear. Go ahead.
Question is for Sarah. So what made you decide to get out of public accounting and go into private enterprise?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'll just repeat it
sorry,
for
go ahead.
the
Yeah.
live stream. The question was just for Sarah, and what were her reasons for getting out of public accounting?
Okay, so I worked in the audit group at PwC for about 10 years, and so I guess the main reason that I left PwC to go to Fortune Bay was just to broaden my experience. So dealing with different stakeholders. So now I have to worry about, shareholders, investor relations, things like that. So it was literally just, I had nothing against PwC because I really liked my job there and I enjoyed it. I would never have stayed that long if I didn't. But it was more just to kind of see the other side of things. So when you're in audit, you're kind of looking at transactions after the fact, whereas now I'm more involved with them as they're occurring in the decision-making process. So that was my main reason.
What did they do?
So Fortune Bay is a publicly traded company on the TSX, and I could go into a long story, but basically right now it is sitting with a cash pool and some resource property exploration projects. So we're looking for strategic investments and moving those projects forward.
Great. Thanks for your question. Any further questions from the audience? Don't be shy. Yes, Julie?
Hi there. My question is, for students who plan to go through the CPA program, do you have any advice for us on how to actually excel at this program, whether it be time management or working with our peers? Any advice would be great.
So the question was for students wishing to pursue the CPA program, is there any advice to ensure that they do excel at the program?
I guess I can take that, as I recently, and hello Julie, as I recently went through the program and I passed last November. So I think the best thing to do is just make sure you plan your life. They always had 3 rules. You could always only do 2 things in one day: school, work, and personal life. You cannot do all 3 in one day. So you kind of have to not overwhelm yourself and also give yourself a break. So in one night I might take it off and do a personal item if I've worked all day. But then on the weekend, I'll do some schoolwork and a personal, or I'll do work and school. So you always just have to have balance in your life. And also, peer study groups are very important, because if you're feeling overwhelmed and you talk to them, they're also feeling the same way. So often when we met up with all of the people that would come from Newfoundland, Bermuda, and PEI, and we'd all get in the same room, and we all had the exact same issues, and we all feel in the same way. So just talking to people and managing your stress is the most important. But I mean, if you can get through university, you can get through the program. It's just really following what they say, drinking the Kool-Aid, as they like to say, and managing your stress and not getting overwhelmed, just taking it one step at a time, and you'll do fine. Like, until you get in there, you don't know what's going to happen, and that's the overwhelming part, the unknown. So you just have to get in and step by step.
And I would add to that and just say that most of the people that you'll be working with have also gone through the program. So you can ask them, how did you get through it? And also just communicating when you have exams and things. Like, now the program has changed, and I know when I was at PwC, I was 10 years out of the program, and I couldn't even tell you who was still in the program unless they told me. So just making sure you communicate with your superiors, because they're going to understand, because they've probably done it before, but also just so that they realize to make your workload reasonable.
Great advice. Any other questions from the audience? Yes, go ahead.
Hi, how are you? I just want to ask about how long it will take to get like the CPA. I know there are maybe 3 stages of it, but I'm not sure how long it will take like to be a professional and got this certificate.
So the question from the audience was, how long will it take to complete the CPA designation?
The new program is different. So I am a mentor in my firm to a couple of students going through. So it's now a 2-year program. It used to be a year and a half about. So the good thing for you guys is it's not as condensed. So you do have a little bit more breathing room. But so it is about 2 years to actually go through the schooling and the exams. And then to actually get your designation, you have to have a set number of hours, which typically takes about an hour. What time is it? It typically takes about a year after you get your designate, or you pass your exam, to get your time in.
Great. Any other questions from the audience? Go ahead.
Wondering what your favorite non-core business courses would have been that perhaps colored the direction that your careers have gone.
So the question from the audience was, what was your favorite non-core course, I guess, through school that may have colored your path to where your career is today?
Oh, that's a good question. It was a few years ago. That was a few years ago.
Well done. They're stumped.
I would say for me, I took French immersion in high school, and then I took advanced French when I went to Dal, and I found that was completely different than anything related to numbers. So, and also in my volunteer work, I stay away from the numbers because I like to do other things than just accounting. And I find if I'm doing volunteer work, I don't want to, at the end of the day, I'm doing accounting and technical stuff all day. I want to try something different. So I play like on a basketball team, I'm involved in the SPCA, things like that. So your life doesn't always seem like you're dealing with numbers and transactions and things, but that's just me.
I didn't have time to take very many non-accounting courses, as many of you that are going to go through the program will realize. But I did really enjoy fundamental concepts of math because that was my break, and it was elementary math. But in terms of shaping where you'll go, again, I played hockey the whole time I went through school, so it actually gave me a break and get some physical frustration out. And I also, really important courses, if they offer them here, I don't remember, because I took it at NSCC, but Excel courses just on your own, or some kind of simply accounting courses on your own, those are very important, and the students who come in with that knowledge are a step ahead. You deal with clients using those programs every day, so it's important.
I think one of my favorites was the consulting program at St. Mary's, where they set you up with the Small Business Development Center, and you work with in a team, and you do a real project for an actual company. I think in a lot of cases it's not-for-profit, so you're out there working with real organizations. So it was great, very interesting.
Excellent. I just want to build on something you said, Christine. Students that come in that have Excel and simply accounting experience gives them an edge. What else would you all say gives entry-level applicants an edge above others?
Big thing when I'm interviewing is communication skills. If you can communicate with myself, I know you can go out and represent our firm well and communicate with clients, because we want to have some faith that you're going to represent us well. So in an interview or just coming up to talk to anyone in the industry, you just have to make sure you're aware of how you're shaking hands and how you're making eye contact, and just be personable and remember that we're people too. We don't want the stiffness. We want to be able to talk to you friendly. That's important.
Anyone else with a thought on that question?
Oh, I think I mentioned that the marks are important to get you in the door, but I think that's a good point. Being a personable person, someone that can make conversation not necessarily about accounting, about other topics, and that, you know, is up to date on current news and things like that. Because that you're going to be working in a team environment for the most part, so everyone wants to be comfortable that you know you're technical, so that will get your marks in the door, but everyone also wants to know that they can get along with the person that they're working with, so that's kind of the other side of the coin, I guess.
And I would add, ask questions, right? It shows that you're engaged and that you may have done a little bit of homework regarding the organization that you're there interviewing for. So that would be, that's something I always look for, to see how engaged that person is in front of me. And I mean, the worst thing you can do is not fix your cover letter when you send those around, right? That's you know, when you see that it's addressed to a different organization than the one you're working for, that goes away very quickly, that letter. So just, you know, just some common sense type stuff. Yeah.
Great. So Sabet recommends asking questions. So on that note, is there any other questions from the audience? Yes, Jason. Up to you. Can hear you a little better. I will repeat your question though for those tuning in.
I'd like to know if you take specific life experience into focus. You guys have mentioned a lot of grades, but I am 36. This is my second career, and I've never taken accounting before. Decided to go to university, retake the career because I work for the CRA, the CBITE program. So I liked it and I want to do it. But I have absolutely no accounting experience before my first co-op in the summer. Do you guys take my 26 plus years of working into consideration?
So the question from the audience was, is life experience taken into consideration, I guess, when applying for jobs?
Oh, definitely. Another thing we look at on resumes is your work experience. Typically, a co-op student doesn't have much work experience, so marks are going to be what we look at. It is important when you get in, if you get in the door, that we are going to look at your marks for the second one, because we want to make sure that you can get through the CPA program, which is a tough program. So if we're going to put money into you and train it into you, we want to invest in your future. So marks are important, but at the same time, if we see someone has done all of bank reconciliations and knows how to post transactions and knows how to use Simply, well, yeah, we're going to take them on. We don't have to even train them. And if their personality fits in, then that's a bonus as well. We don't just look at marks, especially when it's a first co-op.
Great.
Yeah, and another thing that I would look for in terms of that scenario is, you know, things like customer service, right? I know for us, we deal with, you know, all of Canada is really our are customers, right? So you have to possess the ability to serve your customers in a good way, right? And possess those skills. So what you're talking about, you may not have the accounting experience, but likely you would have some kind of customer service experience or things of that nature that you wouldn't first think about when you think of these types of jobs. So everything is an asset. Yeah.
I guess I should just add on that note, since I got a co-op here, so I didn't have any accounting experience. I had a 5-week work term with NSCC, but that was pulling files for auditors and entering numbers into a spreadsheet. It really wasn't much experience. So other experience where I worked in an inn and I managed a restaurant, or I worked on the line as a line cook, I could deal with stressful situations. That came, and my personality just came into play. So.
Great. We will take a couple more questions from the audience, if there is any. Yes.
Was it a big adjustment going from being in the classroom, being with a whole bunch of people, and then going into the CPA program and doing it more distance-wise on your own, and small groups?
So the question from the audience was it a big adjustment going from studying in large groups in classrooms to studying more independently and through distance doing the CPA?
For me, when I started the program, there was still a fair bit of group work there, but I actually enjoyed working on my own a little bit more because it's important to be self-motivated when you go through the program, because you're going to be busy during the day and then you're going to have to motivate yourself to pick up those books in the evening. So I didn't find it a huge adjustment myself, but it does take a lot of self-motivation for sure.
I thought it was a bit of an adjustment, just in the sense that you were working and studying at the same time. I had taken a break from working while I was in university, so you're working at 9 to 5, 6 o'clock, and then you do have to get that extra energy to then read a handbook section, which is fun, as you can imagine. But also, I didn't mind the assignment part of it, because it was just like going home and they gave you an assignment. So you know a lot of the technical and you're going to read about it, but then doing the assignments and practice tests and exams was very similar to university. And then you would meet up with your group at a classroom style, and then they would reinforce. So you were given a bit more of an instructor feel sometimes, but it was definitely different. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but every single other person's going through it.
The combined program that I did, it was designed for people who were working full-time, so you went to class every fourth week for a full Saturday and Friday, so it was very easy to work into a work schedule, but there was a lot of work in between those classes, so it was probably at least 15 hours a week.
Great. I think we have time for another question, if there's any more questions from the audience. Yes, go ahead.
I will ask the question. I'm probably more than likely the black sheep in this group because I'm a marketing student, so no one throw any paper balls, please. But I was just wondering if there's ever a time where you work frequently with marketing executives or communications, any of those fields, I guess.
So the question from the audience was, is there times throughout your career where you're working with marketing and you're working with communications and other departments within your organization?
Yeah, for us, we have a communications, I guess, division or section here in Halifax. Whenever we release any kind of press releases or court results or anything of that nature, we have to do it through our PR people. So we do have those kinds of positions at the regional office, which is located at Purdy's Wharf here in Halifax. So yes, we do have those kinds of jobs. It's not all numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, in my office as well, we're a public company, so we have an investor relations individual who reviews the press releases, and then obviously things like our website, and we need to make sure are updated. I can look at something and be like, oh, I don't like it, but I don't know how to fix it, or I don't know why I don't like it. So we have those people in our office for sure, because I definitely couldn't do that.
In my case, with CUA, we're often developing new programs. So it's a combination of people with, say, the banking background, working with the marketing people to create the marketing material to launch a new program. So it does happen a fair amount, especially in a smaller banking organization.
I would say with public firms, accounting firms, you're not going to have any marketing really, unless you're in a big five, like maybe PwC and their headquarters will have some marketing, but when you're really in the services around the city, it's not as much marketing. I mean, we do deal with clients who have entrepreneurial skills and you're talking to marketing people, but not so much in our field you could get a job.
Yeah, at PwC, most of it is centralized, I would say, in terms of communication and marketing. There are individuals in the firms that are kind of client service based, so they do a marketing to some extent in terms of promoting services and things like that.
I have a question for you, Christine. You mentioned that you do some mentoring.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if any of you have had mentors in your career, if you do any mentoring, and is there a value in it for students to find a mentor now, going through their school now and through their career?
Well, with a lot of public firms, they do assign you a mentor, someone who has gone through the program, and they're fairly recently through the program, so they know exactly what's going on, because it does change, especially with the new program, you get removed after a while. So they'll assign you someone, and the program actually sets it up that you're required to have a mentor that you have to report to and sit down with and go through your progress. So it's a good way of them keeping an eye on you. And also my mentor would mark things for me. So if I did an assignment, I have no idea how I did on it, they'll sit down and mark it and give you guidance. And also, so my mentor was actually someone I went through university with, and so it was perfect. Elsie will know, we're always still together, we work together. And yeah, I also had friends who I knew had gone through the program, so I would ask them questions all the time. I don't necessarily do mentoring outside of the firm, but if you're going to do the CPA program, they'll typically assign you someone in a firm. Or even the companies need to assign someone to you now.
Thank you. Has anyone else had experience with a mentor? Have you had mentors? Do you recommend them for the students?
Yeah, I definitely recommend them. When I started with the CRA, there wasn't a mentorship program. There is now. But what I suggest one does is kind of have an unofficial mentorship relationship with someone that you see is doing well and that you look up to, and hopefully they're open to that, right? Just see what they've done, see what they're doing, and try to model your career and your actions as they've done or as they do, which is what I did. It was an unofficial thing with a couple of great team leaders that I had, and they've provided me with some long-lasting advice. So there wasn't an official mentorship program, but you just make one.
Yeah, I would say at PwC when I started, similarly, we at Levy KC, we had an official kind of assigned mentor, but as you go through your career, you'll start gravitating towards people that you want to be more like or want to get in the industry and things like that. So as I moved through my career, I guess the informal coaches and mentors became a little bit more important than the formal ones. So when I talk about building a network and relationships, I think as you go through your career, those become more important because they'll act more as mentors as well.
Great. Any last questions from the audience? If there are no more questions, then that concludes our Careers in Accounting and Finance panel. I want to thank all the panelists for sharing their time and expertise with us. And for those of you looking for a Learning Passport stamp, please see Miriam or Anne. Anne's at the top and Miriam's at the side here. Thank you very much.